Good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be back here again. I am really excited for this wonderful day, for this wonderful broadcast. I would have been long here if not for some power outage in my community here. I would have been here as promised earlier. I am here now, and I am glad I'm glad to be. Please, as usual, we expect you to go ahead and hit your share button. Let us populate this platform as soon as we can. By 600 count, I will start bringing you the presentation. So please, let's get 600 count, and I start bringing you this presentation proper. Again, my apologies for being this late. We have power outage here, and I couldn't come to you at 8 p.m. Amber time, as I promised. For those of you who are still sitting up on ground zero waiting for this, I appreciate you, I thank you, and you will not be disappointed. Again, for those of you watching by means of Facebook, please, as usual, go ahead and hit your share button now. Some have been here on the platform and left because they were waiting for the moment I am here. Now, please let them know I am here, and I have something very exciting that I bring to you. Of course, you know I do not come here to entertain you. I come here to bring you valuable information about our revolution, our struggle. And that is exactly what I intend to do today. But before I get there, I want to give a shout out to our men and women, everybody in K-Town. It was such a big leap of history that they made in Kumba today. And I want every one of you out there listening and watching on the social media to give me a hashtag, all for K-Town. Hashtag all for K-Town. All for K-Town. I want everybody out there listening and watching by means of Facebook to please, let's get that hashtag for the people of Kumba. All for K-Town. All for K-Town. Let us stand with K-Town to celebrate them and to appreciate them for the wonderful ghost town they observe today. La République du Cameroon had thought that finally, they won a battle. They won one of our cities over. They didn't know we were ready. Our boys in Kumba, the Okada riders, and our restoration forces were up to the task. Those administrators, colonial administrators in Kumba, should be very ashamed of themselves right now. In fact, their heads should be really big now. That petrol money and the 3,000 francs they dish out to their own. Now, did you people realize? Did you realize the $3,000 and the petrol they were distributing to so-called Okada guys were military men disguised as Okada riders? Did you watch that video out there, that footage out there? That the money and the petrol was being given to military men disguised as Okada riders, not the actual Okada riders that we know in K-Town. But we want to appreciate, give a big shout out from this interim government and from every Ambazonian in the diaspora who added his or her word to what was going on in Kumba. We all want to say thank you, Kumba. La République du Cameroon shall never do what they did in Menchum, where they sent their soldiers to go and observe the supervision of our people, killing our people. That will never ever repeat itself again. If the Dao died, Kumba is an example. They thought they were going to turn our brothers against themselves, but they were wiser than the men in uniform. They were wiser than the colonial administrators in Kumba, and they said no. And the entire city of Kumba was shut down, completely shut down. Again, everybody listening, watching at me through Facebook, please, let's all hit the hashtag, all for Kumba. All of us for Kumba. And let us let them know we appreciate their bravery. We appreciate their tenacity. We appreciate their collaboration to make sure ghost towns, today was the best ghost town in Kumba. Please, as you join me, 400 people to go before I bring you the presentation proper. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an important broadcast that I bring to you today. It is very, very critical, very crucial, and I want us to have as many people as possible on this Facebook platform. So you go ahead and do that. And also we have also learned that the Malam, the Awusa Malam, who was abducted in Nkwen, I think it was in Nkwen, Bamenda, was also released. And we have also learned, I got a number of calls last night from, I think it's Bambelang or Bambesing in Indore, that a certain group of so-called Amber boys are holding a number of persons, elderly persons, ransom in their camp. If anybody in Indore is listening to the sound of my voice, I want you, please, if you can reach whatever that camp is. I don't have their name. I asked for their names and their contact. I am still to get it. But if you are in Indore, in Golketunjua, and you are listening to me, and you know that camp that is abducting elderly people, people 60 years and above, and keeping them because their children are in the diaspora, please let this message go out to that camp in Golketunjua that there are 99 days for a thief, but one day for the owner. We will not tolerate any group in this revolution. We will not tolerate any group on ground zero in this revolution picking our own people and exploiting them for ransoms. Any restoration group or so-called Amber group that picks up any Ambazonian for ransom, for profit's sake, I can assure you the genuine restoration forces will lay hands on you, and it will not be good. The news will not be good. I am asking that camp in Indore, and I think it's Bambelang or Bamising or one of those, that is holding that elderly woman, 60 years and above, and others, because their children are in the diaspora and they must pay you money. I am asking you, if you are wise, please release everybody that you have in your keeping. Going forward, we will not accept, we will not tolerate any restoration group on ground zero picking up innocent people and keeping them or torturing them or asking for a ransom from them. That will not be happening. And I have an important announcement I'm going to be making in view of this in the presentation that I will be making very, very, very soon. We are announcing a police that will police the police. That is what we are going to do. We must take control. We must take control. This interim government will do everything to take control of the security and the safety situation on ground zero. Our people cannot face torture from La République du Cameroon. Our people cannot face torture from French Cameroon colonial administrators, and also have to face any torture or killings in the hands of anybody purportedly fighting for this struggle. We will stop it. And if you are caught, one of those picking up innocent people, if you are caught, you will pay with your life. You will pay with your own life for it. And let me also send a message to all the Amber boys belonging to Paul Atanga Nji. We want you to know, again, 99 days, 99 days for the thief, 1 day for the owner. If you think that you can go on destabilizing this revolution because Paul Atanga Nji, Patrick Ekema, and all the rest have put money in your pocket, and you think you can go on and do this with impunity, one of these days, the real restoration forces will lay hands on you, and what you have seen happen to others will happen to you. This is a warning. This is a warning to all of you up in the northern zone and in the southern zone who are pretending to be Amber boys or restoration forces and treating our people with impunity, arresting them, torturing them, extorting from them with impunity. We will lay hands on you. We will lay hands on you, and it will not be well. Ladies and gentlemen, about 300 people to go till I come to you. Hit your share button. Those of you joining, hit your share button. The moment we hit 600 people on this platform, I shall come to you with this presentation proper. Again, this is a very, very crucial presentation that I bring to you. I shall be talking about my trip to Buea, about the audit, about the citizenship registration, and about Amber ID cards. Amber ID cards. For those of you who are beginning to get worried, what are we doing with ID cards? Don't worry. Don't worry yourself. Hold your peace. I will explain to you why we need them now. So please, you go ahead, hit your share button, invite your friends, invite more people, let them join the broadcast. I want to thank especially today our restoration forces in Kumba for the feat that they put up in that city to bring disgrace to the colonial administrators and the invading soldiers of French Cameroon. By now, colonial administrators in our territory and the colonial invading soldiers in our territory, they should know that they are no match. They are no match to our restoration forces. They are not as well equipped as the colonial forces, but their resilience and their bravery and their morale is above what the colonial forces, is above the cannons and the machine guns that the colonial forces they have out there. Let each and every one of us, in fact, I must say very, very sincerely that in the FACO and Meme restoration forces, throughout this revolution, have performed in such an outstanding way, They have made sure that Buea is under control, Kumba is under control, Moyoka under control, Mutengene under control, Tiko under control, Ekona under control, all these places under control. The place which still remains to go under complete control is Victoria. And last week I sounded a warning. To the people in Victoria. If you will not or do not respect these ghost towns and lockdowns, you will have yourself to regret in the days ahead. Victoria, you keep on doing what you are doing, disobeying, disrespecting these holidays that honor our struggle in our revolution. Many of you may have to pay, and pay very dearly. Hit your button, ladies and gentlemen. Hit your button. We are making good progress with the numbers. We are making good progress with the numbers. This is a very, very crucial presentation. I want at least 600 people here while I start the presentation proper. It is crucial that we do that. Thank you again, Ground Zero, for your patience, for your waiting. I know it's about after 10 p.m. on Ground Zero right now, but what I bring to you is crucial, important information. So please, ladies and gentlemen, hit your share button as you join. In fact, if everybody who was joining or is joining hit the share button, we would have within 1 minute or 2 minutes maximum over 600 people on this platform right now. I know it's a little bit late, but we are in Europe, we are in the USA, where life goes on round the clock, 24/7. So please, you must give me those numbers. Let me see who is joining, and let me hear your comments about our boys in Kumba. I want to read what you are thinking in your mind about what took place in Kumba at the weekend and today. And before I get there, I need to emphasize this point again. I think we are learning our lessons from what happened in Menchum. We are learning, and when I say we, I mean especially, I'm referring especially to those on Ground Zero. Anywhere on Ground Zero, we must never allow what took place in Menchum, where French Cameroon troops stood there and supervised and videotaped and interviewed men and women carrying guns and machetes and stepping onto other people's homes, killing them and burning down your homes, and the French Cameroon terrorist ministry was standing there and patronizing it and praising them and videoing it as they took their machetes and killed and slaughtered other citizens, other Ambazonians. They were trying to do the same thing, repeat the same thing in Kumba. And the so-called colonial SDO was as bold as offering gas. Since when did that administration start offering gas, petrol to Okada guys? Thank God for the smartness of those Okada guys. They knew this was meant for them to be killed or go to kill, because they realized never have they been given that before. They were also being extended 3,000 francs. What is 3,000 francs for you to go out and be killed or to be killed? What is 3,000 francs? But above all, our people in Kumba realized they were being set up. They were being set up by the GO. They were being set up by the soldiers to go out and fight among themselves, kill each other. And they were resolved, and they decided it is not going to happen. We will bury our comrade on Thursday, not on Monday. My prayer is that God will bless all of you, prosper all of you, and give all of you long life, so that you will live to see this freedom. You will live to see this independence. You will live to see the free Federal Republic of Ambazonia. And when that day comes, you shall cease to be Okada riders. Some of you will be having your own businesses. Some of you shall be having your own companies. Some of you working in offices, because you don't go to school, study, and have degrees in your pocket and go back to drive Okadas. Only in countries like French Cameroon does that happen. We praise all of you, and we appreciate you. We thank you for listening to the voices of reason and refusing to fall under the plot of the enemy. Thank you very much. Everybody, hashtag, all for K-Town. Everybody, hashtag, all for K-Town. Yes, the numbers are rising quickly. We have less than 120-something people to go. So please, ladies and gentlemen, let's do it. I need 600 people on this screen. On this screen. And I'm sure that all of you out there must have watched also this video that is circulating on the social media of this magistrate, picture magistrate, Chi Valentine. Chi Valentine picked up in the northern zone. Now, what is important? What is important is not his arrest. What is important is the people behind his arrest. When we say Paul Atanga-Nji, Ekema Patrick and the rest, they own what they call Amber Boys. Many people deny, many people refuse. That you saw it today. You saw it today. Not only in that audio, in that video footage with the magistrate, even in Kumba, you saw it. That the people who were receiving petrol and money, $3,000 from the DO in Kumba, they were not Okada riders in Kumba. They were military guys disguised as Okada guys. You could hear them speaking French and then turning around and saying to themselves, don't speak French, as they may know. They may know that you are a soldier. They were talking to themselves. So if you ever had any doubt that indeed there are Atanga-Nji boys who are camouflaging as our restoration forces, at least you saw that today. You saw that today. Let us tweet those messages so that everybody in the international community can see that French Cameroon is transforming its soldiers into civilians, reportedly civilians, to go out and kill other civilians. The Okada riders in Kumba, they were wiser. Had they gone out today with the presence of restoration forces in Kumba, there would have been a lot of bloodshed. There would have been indeed a lot of bloodshed. But thank God you were smarter. You outsmarted everything La République du Cameroon, and you stayed away. That was victory. That was victory. That was victory. Again, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. About 20-something people to go. 600. Let me just welcome a few of you and see what you are saying. Let me know what you are thinking about Kumba, please. I have a very, very crucial, critical presentation that I am bringing to you today. Again, I am talking about my trip to Buea, about the audit report, about citizenship registration, Amber citizenship registration, and of course Amber ID cards. Amber ID cards. Again, there are some of you out there wondering, what are we doing with ID cards for now? Hold your peace. Hold your peace. You will come to understand. And some are asking, why does Ground Zero, I have seen some people write, we are setting up Ground Zero for the kill. No, we are not asking Ground Zero to go out or to come here or to procure ID cards from the interim government. What we are trying to do is for those of us who are in the diaspora. But the moment we come for Ground Zero to acquire theirs, we have less than about 20-something people to go. So please, ladies and gentlemen, hit your share button while I come to you with this presentation. Thank you for joining. Mumbe Ndaga, Faith Batane. I see you say, all to Amber Boys in Cape Town. Yes, Kemi Ashu, thank you for joining. I see KJ, Kulu, Johnson. We stand together. Sir Chris, awesome. I see also Waters for Moses watching. Thank you. Boya Martin, I see you. I see Jimmy Tonga. And Boya Martin, let me say this to you. this is a very civil platform, and you come on this platform and you are rude, you are mean. It just tells others where you are coming from. Okay? So you can behave yourself and get the respect that you deserve, that you should deserve. I see also Larry Cooper, always here. Shomyalala Gorim, I know you, always here too. Magdalene Do, always. Afu, watching from Tokyo, Japan. Uchibe Achindo, the one and only UN, thank you for joining. And also see the one and only Honorable Atta John, thank you, sir. I see also Julio, all for K-Town, absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, I will not keep you waiting any longer. I will bring you right now this presentation. However, I ask you to go ahead. And keep on hitting your share button. Go ahead, keep on hitting your share button while I bring this presentation to you today. Again, this is very, very crucial, very important. We are taking a different leap, another leap. We are moving forward in this IG from today. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen and fellow ambassadors. Early in February this year, I came out to you in one of my broadcasts, swinging in reaction to what I perceive were intense underground plots to topple this interim government, using some frivolous frame-ups from some within it. In that presentation, I pointed fingers at the conspiracy and manipulations led by the former president and a handful of others behind bars to essentially mastermind a destruction of the interim government from J. That is, if they could successfully take over. If they could not take over. At the center of this all was money, my trip to Boya, and how it was managed. Among those within this interim government who were at the center of that plot was the then Finance and Economy Secretary, Tabenyan Brado, whom I described as manifesting fraudulent tendencies by stalking every effort made to have him as Finance Secretary submit to all this required of him by the interim government. I made clear warnings that the meetings in J were heading for a breakup of the interim government, and that if an audit of the interim government was not carried out and proper accounting to all of the interim government's income and expenses, including my trip to Boya, rendered to you, the people of Ambazonia, that the people in J and their collaborators outside, like the APNC folks, will use it to manipulate public opinion and then advocate a change of leadership in the interim government. Aware that Tabenyan was at the center of the plot, I added that if he wasn't going to be made to submit to an audit, I was no longer going to serve in the interim government. I called out the secretary to demonstrate transparency and stop stonewalling the process and open up the records for auditing. These finance issues, I stated, if not resolved, had the capability of stalling the revolution as well. People were already withdrawing their contributions because they were told their contributions were being used for birthday celebrations and exorbitant hotel accommodations. I wish I was wrong. Unfortunately, I wasn't. Condenge, when they could not change or topple the government, have gone ahead to set up a fake IG made up of persons formerly serving this interim government that sat for corrupt practices. There is no doubt in my heart, in my mind, that we have this scenario today because somebody, and that is the finance secretary, was churning out lies to gullible and naive Condenge. He wanted a leadership and a system change that kept him in charge of the money, but without ever submitting to any audit. He is a co-conspirator in the events that led up to the so-called Condenge government. We see the divide, and we feel it too. Thanks to Tabiang. But following that broadcast that I made, the interim government took a step in the right direction. It recruited an auditor to engage Tabiang and the treasurer, Helen Akonji, for a proper auditing of the finances of the interim government. The auditor, who happened to be a member of the IG, was flown into the USA from Europe, a choice and a move meant to save the cost that could have otherwise been paid or charged by an established audit firm. Tabiang and Akonji cooperated to a very limited degree, and as a result, what was produced as an audit report fell very short of expectations. It was very haphazard, void of details and void of essential data. Both Cabinet and the Restoration Council turned down that report and demanded a redo of the entire exercise. At the second request, Tabiang this time refused to cooperate, arguing that the auditor was biased and that he didn't trust his neutrality in the process. However, in Berlin at the Constituent Assembly, stakeholders resolved that the audit team be enlarged to include a representative each from all our 13 counties. So, in addition to the 5 facilitators, some of them professional accountants that the IG had appointed, including the original auditor, each county was made to nominate a representative to sit in the audit committee. You would think that this diversity would impress Tabiang and the treasurer, Helen Akonji, to share their herd biases and cooperate with the enlarged audit committee. No, they didn't. The committee met for over a month, using the previous audit as a guide, summoned a whole bunch of witnesses, including yours truly. Everyone else who had anything to do with money was invited to testify and, if possible, provide some hard evidence. But for the trio of Tabiang, Akonji, and former Health and Social Services Secretary, Khaled Bongo, that Khaled Bongo refused to cooperate may not necessarily be tied to any financial impropriety, but for the bad blood she left the interim government with, having been fired. However, for Tabiang and Akonji, there is every reason to now believe that both have something they are hiding from the auditors or the audit committee and from you, Ambazonians. They certainly are sitting on something they don't want Ambazonians to know. The audit report has stated exactly what amount of money, going by the records, they could lay hands on that came into the interim government and what was spent between January 2018 and December 2018. In their breakdown of the figures, every head of department or project director who was given funds was called to testify. However, because Tabinyang and Akonji will not cooperate, the narratives of those who testified before the audit committee cannot even be corroborated or verified, which is to say that the whole audit exercise as it is still an incomplete project, and to be frank, it certainly may never be a completed project. How do you complete a report for which the key witnesses refuse to cooperate? But this isn't the main problem in the audit exercise. The main problem is with the sums of money. The sums of money that the report says were appropriated by both Tabinyang and Helen Akonji. Tabinyang is reported to have appropriated a little over $193,000. For what? Was it for what? And for what expenditure? Akonji Holland, the treasurer, also appropriated close to $100,000. And like Tabinyang's, no one has an idea on what she used or spent the funds on. But these are only the figures we know. These may pale up in the face of those other figures that we do not know. For example, we do not know what amount of money left Sky Park into our two foundations and whether or not they actually got into the coffers of the interim government. The auditors have also said that we do not know about the checks, the money transfers, and the fiscal cash handed or delivered to Tabinyang for deposit in the bank for my trip to Boya. People paid cash in some instances and were never given receipts. I personally directed someone to Tabinyang Brado. He had called me after a telethon. The person called me after a telethon on ABC to donate $5,000 cash for my trip to Boya. Tabinyang got the money, cashed it, and no receipts were issued. No one can be sure whether without documents such as deposit receipts to prove that these and other amounts were actually deposited in the IG's accounts. The audit committee cannot account for donations like this one because Tabinyang will not present the records. Money was also sent in from a trip to Boya through Tabinyang in his personal name by way of Western Union, from Europe and from Africa. But since Tabinyang would not appear before the committee, there is also no evidence these funds went into the accounts of your interim government. In the audit report, we see figures described as wire transfers amounting to $140,000. Nobody, and I mean nobody knows to who and for what purpose those wire transfers were made or went to. The transactions have no names and no descriptions attached to them except for the sole label, wire transfers. Tabinyang needs to tell Ambazonians who was or were the recipients and for what projects and who approved those wire transfers. But besides these, there are issues involving some two bank accounts that remain a secret between Tabinyang and Akonji. That is to say that only these two people knew about the existence of those accounts and what happened to the funds in the accounts. In fact, one of the bank accounts was only discovered on the eve of the day the first audit report was to be submitted to the government. Online donations from Braintree and other online platforms, we have learned, were all being directed to these accounts. And from these accounts, there has been no indication that the funds, the money in there, was forwarded to the main accounts, which were known to the interim government. We have been told that there was a balance in those accounts at the time they were discovered. Tabanyang didn't mention the accounts in his own self-made audit report, nor did he disclose them to the internal auditors that just concluded a new report. The accounts were brought to the attention of the auditors only through a third party who did some online work for the interim government. Like the main accounts that Tabanyang would not give enough access to, he also won't release a copy of the QuickBooks. The QuickBooks, which he admitted are available. But we know why the QuickBooks have not been released and shall never be released. The fact is that with QuickBooks, there is no way you can play around, hide, or manipulate the figures once they have been entered into the books. This is the way QuickBooks work. Once an amount or a transaction is entered or recorded, it never goes anywhere. Even when you think you have deleted it, what is deleted is still very much recoverable with QuickBooks. If you go in and try to change figures, you will live creating more mess than you made. Essentially, with QuickBooks, you cannot delete nor come back after to change or adjust figures previously entered. If you should delete it, it is still there. It remains there. This QuickBook is the most important document that the auditors wanted from Tabanyang and Helene Akonji. It was never produced, and it doesn't appear like it will one day be produced at all. The reasons, of course, are obvious. The audit report alone, without any judgment, speaks volumes of the way these two have managed the people's money for the past 1 year and counting. Throughout the report, for example, we get acquainted to huge sums of money like $3,000, $300,000 there, $123,000 there, $50,000 there, $900,000 there. What many people do not know, thanks to the absence of cooperation from those two who gathered the funds, is that most of these huge sums are bogus. Neither the auditors nor even Tabanyang can justify most of those bogus amounts. I will relate, for example, to the communication department that I'm familiar with and which I oversee. When you read the section of the audit dealing with the Department of Communications, you find so many bogus figures. It is hard to explain. I mean, figures which are hard to explain because we don't know where they came from. You see, for example, expenditure items registered as business registration to the tune of $3,000. And the Department of Communications is supposed to have spent that money, right? What the audit does not tell you is that Communications did not register any business or company, and that sum $3,000 was neither asked for, demanded, or ever paid to the department. Whoever appropriated it wasn't a member of this communications department. In fact, I was never aware of that registration, not until this audit report came out. Not even ABC. ABC was registered for such an outrageous amount of money. ABC was registered, incorporated with less than $200. But that's not all. You look still under communications expenses. There is expenditure described as telephone and communications. Telephone and communications. Telephone and communications, adding up to huge figures. Ambazonians will read that and imagine that the interim government bought or was paying for phone bills or phone calls for Chris Anu or the communications department. It will surprise you, ladies and gentlemen, that it was never the case. Whoever was being paid telephone bills, only Tabayang and Akonji can explain. But I bring these up here, not because they concern my department or that I want to vindicate myself. No, absolutely not. I have brought this up so you see that if this bogus accounting was going on in communications, then imagine what went on in different departments also. Which is to say that most of what is allocated as expenditure to some people, they may never have even as much as known about it. That is a fact. Let Tabanya and Akonji prove me wrong by producing their quick books. Ladies and gentlemen, it is very obvious, very, very obvious, that my trip to Boya raised much more money than what has been reported by the audit committee. They were not blaming the audit committee. But we do not blame them for the figures presented, because we have to blame Tabayang for failing to show up with the quick books, bank records, and other data. Only he and Helen Akonji can explain what happened to the rest of the funds, and until they do so, Ambazonians must continue to hold them to account or for a reform. They are trying to hide their fraud under the pretext they want an independent auditor. Who do they want should pay for the services of an independent auditor? They are playing smart. Ladies and gentlemen, the services of an independent auditor will cost not less than $20,000. And they know the interim government is not in the place to pay that money. And so they can sit on the records under this pretext. But Ambazonians must do what Ambazonians must do for both of them is to hold them to account. Fellow Ambazonians, you wanted an audit, finally you got one. But we have gotten one at the expense of exposing ourselves to our common enemy like the Republic of Cameroon. They now can weigh our capabilities and our inabilities. Thanks to Tabayang and Akonji, over the past 6 months, nothing was said or mentioned without my trip to Boya coming up. No conversation, no project was raised without someone demanding or making a mockery of the interim government over my trip to Boya. Now you know who started it. Unfortunately, the persons are not cooperating with us. What do? Kill the revolution because of 2 people? Wave the white flag of surrender to La Republique du Cameroon because of 2 people? Fellow Ambazonians, this is the time to move on. This is the time to put my trip to Boya behind us and look forward to a new dawn, a new day. But before we do so, let's not forget to remind the former president in Condenghe. There is a saying that, you show me your friends, and I tell you who exactly you are. The people who defrauded this government thousands of dollars in the past with Scapac are the ones that the former president has in his team. The people who defrauded this interim government in the DOD are the same people who surround the former president in his team. The same people who defrauded this interim government with the ASC have reconstituted, and they are again with the former president. And here again, Tabi Young and Helen, the very people we are holding responsible for the mess with my trip to Boya are the new money keepers, the new money managers with the former president, with the Kondenge government. They know that they can just continue with their fraud, with their game to eternity. And nobody can audit or question them. That is your new government, made up of such dubious characters. If you take them to Boya, ladies and gentlemen, Ambazonia will never be a free country. The former president has gathered around himself a team of fraudsters. He is protecting them and telling them not to worry. You don't have to worry. So they can just go on and on and on and on with impunity, living on the sweat of Ambazonians. It is time somebody begin to ask why every team member of the reassembled Kondenge government is a fraud. Why is someone not asking these questions? Why is it that only people who have been fired in this government for corrupt and fraudulent practices are being reconstituted in Kondenge? Why? Show me, your friends. I tell you who you are. How come the very people who duped Ambazonians yesterday and squandered funds in Scapac, in the ASC and the DOD, are the very ones being reassembled by the destruction in Kondenge? Again, remember that you show me your friends, and I tell you whom you are, fellow Ambazonians. Again, we must move on now from these detractors who want everyone to believe my trip to Boya is all the reason for every one of our current troubles. But they squander the funds, got discipline, and for that they turn to the narrative that Sako is that, Sako is this. The simple truth is that they are upset because Sako took food away from their mouths. Sako closed the door for their corruption and fraud. Sako fired them, simply put. Now that the audit is out, where are they? Why are they not pointing to where Sako ate or directed the funds for personal use? No, they have nowhere to point fingers to now. They are all dead silent. Instead, they are busy forming some new evil and destructive alliances and groups throughout the place, here and there. They just want to continue duping gullible Ambazonians for more money. We are hearing of names like the Revolutionary Council that must take us back to the grassroots, as if to suggest that county by county, local government by local government is in the moon. You hear of names like Contender Falls. And the first funds they raise, nobody can give account for a dime. Fellow Ambazonians, this is the time to move on. Form your interim government, form your local government and counties, and remember, you are dealing with a government you can always turn back and question and demand accounts and how your funds are used, and it will be rendered to you. Can anyone say same of these other everyday groups? And by the way, did they say contender force? Haven't we heard of such projects before? First, they said it was rooftop to rooftop. Then they said it was Changshu Force. Then they said it was AMF. And somebody in Europe actually waked me up in the middle of the night to warn me that Ground Zero was done with the IG. It's about 6 months gone now, and Ground Zero is still there. And now we have the contender force. Tomorrow we may have whatsoever, if you can put your name there. Just different styles of tricks to trick people for more money they will never account for. I challenge them to present their own audit report. And I will be the first to do a fundraiser for them over this television set. And by the way, what are they really contending for? What are they contending for? Are we in this struggle to contend for anything? If that was vision, I would have laid down tools and walked away. We are not contenders, and we are not contending for anything, ladies and gentlemen. Do not be deceived with high-sounding empty words and titles. There is nothing, absolutely nothing like contending for Ambazonia. We contended in 1961 with the United Nations, and we got our independence. French Cameroon tried stealing it, but we have restored it. What we are doing now is we are defending it. We are not contending for it. We are defending our restoration, not contending for it. Stay away from any contenders. They are spoilers and know not what they want. Stay away from so-called revolutionary cancer. They are hungry for power and hungry for control. This interim government is such a big tent. In fact, the biggest tent this revolution knows. And that which is accountable to all, and open to welcoming all Ambazonians. For more than 1 year, this interim government has proven that it serves all, and I mean all Ambazonians. Why can't people see it and come work together? What is really the difference? What is the difference between a revolutionary council and an interim government? Apart from the differences in names, what is the difference? Please, can the councillors tell us what the difference is? Is the council not talking about an army or defense? Is the council not talking about county and LGA by LGA and leadership? Will the council not have a leader? Will the council not raise funds? Will the council not fight the same enemy, La République du Cameroon? Will the council be leading the fight to a different capital other than Buea? Or tell Ambazonians what new revolutionary council wants to do? What the new revolutionary council wants to do that this government isn't doing or hasn't done. Fellow Ambazonians, we must move on. In fact, it's time we move on. One thing is clear. Through distractions of my trip to Buea and the last 6 months, one thing has emerged. And that one thing is that you have men and women in this interim government whom you now can trust are giving their best for this struggle. Your leadership is incorruptible and uncompromisable. We will never sell this cause out of greed, power, and control. None of us came into this government as an expert. We have faltered in many ways though, but we have equally made so much progress that surpasses many expectations. French Cameroon, after they picked up, abducted our leaders, didn't for once believe this government this still be functional today. That we have outlived their expectations and proven that this revolution depends on no one person for progress. We have taken them to the United Nations Security Council, to the U.S. Congress, U.S. Senate, to the European Parliament, to the House of Lords and the House of Commons, to the Canadian Parliament, to the Commonwealth, and now we are about dragging them to a negotiation table. We have equally given them a good fight for their money, an army on ground zero. We have strangulated and still continue to strangulate their economy. To a certain degree, we have taken over control of our territory and we run it the way we want. Our restoration forces are slowly but surely graduating from the use of then guns to locally fabricated cannons to defend our country, and all of Ambazonia is currently pursuing the technology. If La République du Cameroon doesn't withdraw their troops, most importantly for our children to go back to school, in the next 6 months, we will make sure that no one colonial administrator and colonial institution remains standing in Ambazonia, our country. In the order of Sonara, CDC, Pamon, timber, rubber, brasseries, among others, everything that serves their interest must go. In the next 6 months, the DOs must go. The government delegates must go too. Our towns will be managed and controlled by elected mayors and councillors. All francophone judges, their so-called procureurs, court clerks and gendarmes must leave our territory or be made to leave. The interim government is formally announcing today the formation of the Federal Marshal. The Federal Marshal is a special military task force that will operate throughout Ambazonia to carry out special operations, especially to track down Atanganji boys and to curb the level of abuses by the so-called Amba boys. You will not see them, but they will live among you, equipped enough to carry out maximum damage on the enemy's interests. In the same token, ladies and gentlemen, the interim government is also announcing a citizenship registration drive for all Ambazonians living in the diaspora. Again, let's get this clear. This is only for the diaspora. The registration begins 1st of August. Some people have asked what the importance of the exercise is all about. It is indeed very, very important, and I will give you a number of reasons. Number one, the interim government has complaints from thousands of Ambazonians in the diaspora whose documents, identification documents such as passports and ID cards have all expired, and which La République du Cameroon embassies won't renew. If they are picked up anywhere, they have nothing to show for their nationalities. And in fact, they cannot even travel. We are hoping that through this process, we did be able to work out some avenues through which they can have some temporary travel documents from sympathizer nations of our cause. But even more important is the fact that we never know how this conflict will end. We have no idea how it will end. What if it ends with some form of election required? At that moment, we do not want to be in a rush to register Ambazonians in the diaspora. The rush should be on ground zero, not in the diaspora. Where the situation of any election emerges in this process, we will need full participation of the diaspora. Shouldn't we be ready for it before such an opportunity or eventuality knocks? In the coming days, the acting president shall be addressing the country to talk a little more on this subject. But in the meantime, here is how it is going to work. How the registration drive is going to be conducted. It takes 3 steps, 3 stages. Stage 1, you come in and present your current government-issued ID card or passport. It doesn't matter whether it is expired or not expired. Just present it and then present a passport photograph and your birth certificate to your local government administration. Each LGA may require additional requirements. In step 2, after your certificate of origin is established, your local government forwards your application to the national ID card in the Department of Homeland, National ID Card Directory in the Department of Homeland Security. In the last step, which is step 3, the Directorate of Immigration and Naturalization Services will also issue you a citizenship certificate with your unique citizenship identification number, similar to a social security number as we have here in the USA. So what is this going to cost you to get this? $50 for all the 3 steps. Payment is expected to be made on government website at www.amazoniagov.org. You take your proof of payment to your local government area and they complete the process for you. Fellow Amazonians, we have spent all of the last 6 months bickering over trivialities, and detractors sought to derail our revolution. And it was all about my trip to Buea and the audit. Now we have the audit. And my trip to Buea has been explained. Going forward, let's hold those who go back to it, those who try to resurrect it, as true adversaries, enemies of this revolution. Let us move on. Let us fund our government and fund our counties and local governments. Some of you had withdrawn your monthly levy payments, waiting for this moment. I urge you, on behalf of this struggle and our restoration forces who depend on what you give, to live from here, renewing your monthly levies. Get to the website and do so. To our detractors, I have a message for you. We will not shy away from confronting anyone who still wants to stand on the way of this revolution with distractions. Whether you are an activist or a group, I urge you to avoid rancor and let's focus on dragging the Republic of Cameroon onto the negotiation table, decimating what is left of them in our territory. We can do this. Let's do it now. God is on our side. Having taken us this far, He is not ready to see us falter. We should keep the faith alive. God bless you. Short live the struggle. Long live the Federal Republic of Amazonia. Thanks for tuning in. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.